So yeah, welcome, Ronan.
Thank you for having me here. A pleasure to be
Yes.
with you guys.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you, and I'm very interested to get your feedback and your advice because I think that the topic that we have in hand today is quite a hot topic. So I wanted to first of all start with the basics, especially why do you think that brands are going direct to consumer now? And after this crazy year that we've had, 2020, how do you think that the consumer expectations have changed?
Okay, so of course it is not a new thing. The brand are definitely considering the D2C channel for many years now, but due to the new situation, the new reality of the COVID situation, of course, it's not even a question of should we go or shouldn't we go. It's a do or die
Mhm.
question. So of course, when during some months, all the shops, all your resellers, all your partners are closed due to the pandemic. You don't have any choice to take over the control of your sales channel, and of course, to directly sell to your final customer.
Okay, because do you think that there's like a specific time in terms of the maturity of the brand that you would recommend setting up a D2C channel? When is it too early or too late? What can you recommend in that sense?
Well, of course, here there is many different cases. No, it depends on many criteria. If you are a brand which sells depends on a 99% of your resellers, then of course you have a lot of uh, pressure when you open your D2C channel because at the end of the day you're making the competition of your partners. So in
Hmm.
terms of strategy, you can't just take this decision like lightly. You have to really try to integrate this strategy, thinking of your own goods, but also to the fact that you can't, without, let's say, negotiate with your partners, decide to shift your sales from a channel to another. And of course, many brands at the moment don't have a sufficient, let's say, percentage of sales in the direct channel to put all their effort in this channel without considering what really brings the money in the company.
Yeah.
So uh, I don't know if there is a moment where they should or shouldn't, but of course, each situation should be really analyzed. Uh, well, of course, due to the external situation like COVID, as I said
Hmm.
previously, but of course, due to the real numbers and the real situation that they have in terms of sales, and that's for sure the most important things to do.
Okay. Because if, let's say, a brand, a company, marketing manager, and the team decides to launch that brand D2C and build a D2C store, what would you say are the five or six, or what are the must-haves that you would say to set up a successful store
Well,
online?
you have said something very interesting because this is one of the points that usually is the biggest mistake from the brand.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I would say would be to make sure that they have the internal expertise of digital slash e-commerce in-house.
Okay.
Most of the brands, when they decide to open their channel, they say, okay, we don't have an e-commerce director because we never needed it. So which department should we use to launch the activity? And then they decide most of the time
Marketing.
to give it to marketing. But
Yeah.
marketing are no experts at all in D2C sales, not expert at all in e-commerce. And most of the time, this is not the right way to do it. So the first thing, the most important thing, of course, before to launch your D2C activity is to make sure that you contract and you build a team with experts in, well, at least digital slash e-commerce experience.
Okay, because obviously there's a lot that goes into building a D2C store, just the same as in a physical store. So obviously there's not just kind of the setting up the first stages. Would you mention that you need a very capable team to build the technical expertise in order to do that? But then there's also kind of the supply chain aspect of it as well. Because when
Exactly.
you have the consumer going into the store and picking up the product itself, then it's very easy. But when you need to bring it to their house and deliver it, that's an added difficulty that probably companies need to face as well. Would
Yes,
you say, would you give any advice on that?
Exactly. The brands have to make a shift between a B2B logistic to a B2C logistic, which is totally different. But of course, my advice would be that they should think about how can I use my own process and technology that I already have, and adding new technologies and new process, combine all those assets together to be able to give the best B2C experience for my final customers. The idea is not to create an activity which is totally disconnected from the, let's say, original activity and supply chain, but to integrate this new activity in the actual systems and technologies and process, and to be able to really have let's say, a synchronized process with all those aspects. Because if you start thinking of the D2C activity as, like, let's say, an external activity, not connected with what you have already, then it's the best way to create some problems of stock synchronization, delay on the delivery, and of course, the final customers do not like this kind of issues.
Yeah, we want everything and we want it now. So I
Exactly.
definitely understand the challenge there. Because as well, something that you mentioned, how can companies kind of have the right balance between a physical store and a D2C store? Because obviously the trend is to go into the online space, but you cannot forget that in the end, it is important to have a presence on the real world from that perspective. Would you give any advice on what is the right balance, or how they companies should approach having a physical store and an online store as well?
Of course, again, those brands and retailers who have the let's say, the asset to already have some physical contact with the consumers. Of course, they have to leverage these assets and use it to bring a better experience to the final customers. We are talking in this case of about the concept of unified commerce. So that means that
Okay.
you don't especially push one channel in front of one other. You don't consider it that you have one activity online and one activity offline. You really consider your selling activity, because you are selling as a whole and as a complete and integrated experience for the final customer. So it's not about okay, what percentage of sales online or offline, or how can I treat those different channels, but really to try to integrate those channels in the same strategy. So we are talking about unified commerce. This concept of unified commerce has evolved with the time. We started with cross-channel activity, omni-channel activity, customer-centric activity, and now the new concept is a unified commerce. So this is something that you should apply on your strategy.
So, Ronan, imagine that you finally get through all of these hoops. Imagine that you have the right e-commerce team in place. Imagine that you build the right unified e-commerce strategy and the supply chain system to deliver the product to the house of the customer. And then how do you make sure that the D2C channel you've built keeps running optimized, keeps up to date? Is there any key indicators that you would like to mention to be good to keep in mind in order to make that happen?
Okay, yeah, of course. I think there is a lot of KPIs that are totally common between the offline or online world to measure the satisfaction level of the final customers. But if there is one KPI which is very important, especially in the online, of course, when you're launching e-commerce business, is the CAC, meaning that the cost of acquisition of your customer. The idea of any business is to be profitable, and you know that to get customers online, you're spending a lot of money in all the digital channels like Google, Facebook, Instagram, for instance, and you have to be very, very precise at the moment to measure what costs you to get this customer. Another KPI in the same matter would be to calculate the lifetime value of the customer. Okay, so let's say that I'm able to spend this amount of money to get my customer, and this take a lot of my margin. But at the end of the day, it's not a problem if I know that this customer will repeat the purchase X time during the year. So this is also a very, very important metrics to make sure that your activity is actually profitable online. And in this case, those KPIs are very different from the offline world.
Okay. Because one last question, I'm particularly interested in this one, because of course, I work with people in e-commerce all the time. I'm a headhunter and I work with leaders in this space. So I wanted to ask you, what's your take on what is the future e-commerce leader going to look like? What is he going to need or she going to need to be successful?
Look, for me, the best characteristic that someone in e-commerce should have is to be able to say, I don't know about e-commerce.
Okay.
Why? Because basically, if you disconnected yourself more than 1 month, 2 months, then you're out of date. The velocity in which this sector is evolving is amazing. It's totally incredible. And every weeks, there are new technologies, retail tech, martech, e-commerce tech, ad tech, that can help you to improve your activity and to improve your KPIs and to have a better online or let's say unified commerce activity. So this is for me the most important thing. Not to be sure, okay, I've been working in e-commerce for 17 years now, I know. No, you don't know, because if you don't keep this curiosity to test, inform yourself, be able to really benchmark all the technologies that can help you to evolve and transform your activity, then you're not a good e-commerce manager or e-commerce director.
I like that. Being smart is really being aware as well of what you don't know more than what you actually do know. So
Exactly.
I like that idea. And on that note, thank you so much, Ronan, for your advice, for your questions, for your insights. I think it's very, very interesting. And I think you address several points that in 2021 will definitely be on everybody's mind. So thank you so much for that advice. A pleasure having you in the podcast.
Pleasure.